I believe we are live on X and YouTube. So today we are here with Warren. He's an old friend of mine. You know, he goes back all the way from when I first started on TikTok, and the Ukraine war was started, and he was the only person that had all the. He was saying all the facts, all the figures, way before anyone else. And I'm delighted to have you here today. So welcome to the show, Warren.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute
How you
pleasure
doing?
to
You're
see
right.
you again. Yeah, I'm absolutely fine, mate. Absolutely buzzing.
Good. Tell the people. You can tell people more than me. What are you up to at the moment? What's going on with your streaming and your content you put out?
Yeah, so basically, we're live on Twitter X, we're live on Rumble, we're live on Kick at warrenthornton.com. And basically, we do a 2-hour news show, which keeps everybody up because obviously the mainstream media doesn't tell the truth anymore. So, what we do, even if it's uncomfortable, we tell the truth and simply nothing but the truth on our platform. As I say, at warrenthornton.com. We have a show 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. every weekday. 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Sundays, and we have a morning subscriber show as well. And I'm domiciled in the Philippines because, of course, many moons ago we were turning around and saying, look, America is getting ready for a war with China, so we're here ready for when it starts in 2027, the end of 2027.
Is that where you are now? You're over there. Wow.
Yes, man. Yeah, it's
How is it over there?
It's absolutely fantastic. I live on a little island, about 30 miles away from Manila. I'm all married and settled down and everything else. And what I've got is basically access to the Chinese and the Chinese embassy, so that we can get everything that's going on, because we knew this was coming. We had an intercept of a document that said after the last Taiwanese election that America were going to start to move into the Chinese sphere of influence, using the Philippines, Japan, and Australia to fight a proxy war against China. And at the moment, we're getting that build up that is starting towards that.
What do you think is gonna happen with that war? Do you think it will be a long, drawn out war like what's going on in Russia, where a lot of the military industrial complex gets rich, or do you think it will be a territorial war where we'll come in all guns blazing?
It is one of those where America will need a proxy, and that is why they're building up the bases at the moment. But they've just sold the Philippines 18 air defense systems, which at the moment the Chinese Coast Guard and the Philippines are having a row over the shoals, the various areas, the islands. And of course, the reason for that is because the Americans now want those 18 defense missile systems put on those islands and pointing at Taiwan, because obviously Taiwan in 2027 will have a new election, and of course a pro-Chinese government is tipped to go in there, and of course America won't want that at all. And of course what we're looking at the moment is Duterte, who was the main opposition to Marcos in the Philippines, was literally kidnapped off the runway, flown to The Hague to the ICC, and he is now being charged by the ICC for all sorts of crimes. And the problem is with that, of course, is the Philippines is not a signatory to the ICC. So this is a political capture and a political getting rid of someone. And of course, that fits well because Duterte gets on well with China, Marcos gets on well with America. So we're definitely heading that way.
So that's why you think the Farage, for one of it, was so saying about, what was it, not the Maldives, where we just give the Chagos Islands.
Yes.
That, do you think that's a play then in China's hands that actual Starmer has done? Starmer knows what's happening, and he's saying, you know what, we'll give the territory back to whoever it is there. I can't remember now. The Mauritian people, I think it is, and that will actually hand a big chunk of the war to China.
Well, there are Americans there, and of course the Americans are not going to want that to happen or anything else. So, but there's a river of dirty money that has gone through, shall we say, various people's hands when it comes to that. And this is all power plays and everything else. This is about interfering in other people's spheres of influence. The Americans are not going to let China become a superpower. They're not going to let Russia become a superpower. But what they are doing is pushing the Chinese and the Russians very, very close together. I was party to seeing what the Chinese are doing with drones, and they are building 12 floating platforms at the moment, but they can literally fly 40,000 drones off of each one of these platforms.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. That changes everything as well, especially with the dominations in the South China Sea, on all these places. It makes you see why there's so much conflict within countries and within true talking head people who speak the truth. Because when you say that, all the stuff that Vivek Ramaswamy was talking about, all of that comes into play. Because before it didn't really have too much, well, for me anyway, it didn't really make too much sense because it's not my problem. But now you can see how that becomes a problem.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I've always said, as I always have said, that Ukraine and Iran are just the appetizers. China is the real meal. At the end of 2027, they will have a new election there. And you have to remember that most of the world's semiconductors are made on the island of Taiwan. And of course, they're not going to want them to fall into the wrong hands. And you will just see week by week, month by month, this ramp up the rhetoric against each other. We've had the tariffs. We've had all sorts of things that are going on. But regardless of who the president of America is, the war hawks have where they want to go next. And this is another war. They will need to move out of Ukraine because Ukraine is lost. That war is lost. Anybody that thinks Ukraine even have the semblance of a chance there are talking through their hat. And the one thing that is really, really important to note is they've done exactly what they've done in Korea, what they did in Vietnam, what they did in Afghanistan, and what they did in Iraq, is that when everything goes absolutely terribly wrong, they slide out the side door and they leave the place in a mess. And they're going to do exactly the same with Ukraine.
So why do you think then, going on to the Ukraine situation, why do you think now then Starmer's pushing it? Instead of saying, okay, right, we'll take the concession on it, we'll give Russia, because we've got his counter proposals, and all that Putin is saying is what he has been saying from the start. He wants a certain amount of the land back. The ones who already, speak in Russian and would identify themselves as a Russian, if it came down to it, he wants to stop the denazification. He wants to do all of these things, which he's never ever said anything different on.
No.
So why is Starmer now still pushing it? Because 3 days ago he said we're on a war footing. He's opening up warehouses. He's making the missiles and the ammunitions and all the drones and everything that we do build or we do get. He's ramping that up. So he's looking to go to war with Russia. It makes no sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's got to try and drag the USA into it, and the USA have other priorities. Now, Starmer still has some questions to ask, and of course, later on tomorrow, certainly later on today, my time, later on tomorrow, your time, the three gentlemen who went and burnt his front door down and he set light to his car, the Ukrainian male models, in inverted commas, will be appearing in court. And also there's a fourth one been arrested as well. Now, Starmer has serious questions to answer here because not only that, we are hearing on the grapevine through our various sources that the gentleman, Portnov, who was shot to death in Madrid, actually had a laptop with some very incriminating evidence on. The MI6 in England have asked for a closed investigation from the Spanish. And of course, that gentleman's laptop has been smashed to pieces and the hard drive removed. Now, he was killed after dropping off his two daughters at school in Madrid 5 days after these guys were caught trying to burn down Starmer's front door or smash his back door in or whatever. And of course, the thing that we have, which is a real problem, is the gentleman who was killed in Madrid went to the SBU, the Ukrainian Secret Service. He travelled to the Ukraine to speak to them. So the word on the street is, and the word we're hearing from Whitehall, is that he had incriminating evidence against Starmer. Now, this guy worked for Yukановich, who was literally the president at the time when America overthrew the democratically elected government of Ukraine in 2014. So the supposition is, and the odds are, that he went over there to tell Zelensky he's got to step down. If not, all this evidence would suddenly be put out into the open, and suddenly 4 men turn up as he's dropping his daughters off to school, shoot him dead. And of course, Starmer's tried to talk about absolutely everything, but this incident. I mean, suddenly he's in the newspapers giving speeches about absolutely everything. Remember, he's just signed a 100-year deal with Ukraine. He's also giving them 3.5 billion a year. If he is compromised at all, and we had the Profumo affair, where Christine Keeler was sleeping with not only the defense secretary in the 60s, early 60s, John Profumo, but was also sleeping with a Russian attaché. That brought down the Conservative government. And then we had in the 70s, we had Jeremy Thorpe, the Liberal leader, having a homosexual affair with a guy called Norman Scott. And that caused him to have to resign as the leader of the Liberal Party. So Starmer does have questions he needs to answer here. And when we're talking about the war footing, he needs to get the Americans involved, because without the Americans, Starmer is talking nonsense. We have 73,000 troops. If we put them into Russia, bear in mind that in Bakhmut, the Ukrainians lost 120,000 troops in just 8 months fighting the Russians. Now, we don't know the topography, we don't know the language, we haven't forever fought a drone war, and we don't know, and we haven't been in trenches for about 60, 70 years. So everything is against us. The Ukrainians had this all on their side, and they still got absolutely annihilated. So the nonsense that Starmer is talking about going in and fighting a war inside Ukraine is complete nonsense. What they will do is try and do the terror tactics that they did by bringing down that bridge the other day that killed a few people, on the train sort of thing. So they've been doing that sort of thing. Remember that the effort to go into Kursk, Belgorod, and Krinky all ended in disaster, and they were all planned by the British forces.
Yeah, and that's why I love speaking to you, because you have all the facts there to roll off that people here will not understand, or not understand, but not know without people like you speaking out. And it just makes the whole situation so deep and dirty. And like you said, these allegations, I didn't realize that. I didn't even know that guy was shot.
Yeah.
And he was connected this way. Is like Hunter Biden's laptop all over again. What is the
Yes.
contents of that? Everyone else was telling you to look the other way, and what is on his laptop is very incriminating.
Yes.
And I was going to say, because this is what I said from the start. He had a terror attack on his house, let's just say, and he hasn't spoken about this at all. He's done everything he can to speak, not speak at all. But when the Southport, conflicts was happening, I wouldn't say they were right, in my opinion, because they were instigated by deep state people, I believe. So it wasn't made from the people. But he straight away came out and said about the far right, said about how we are all in trouble. But he hasn't said about these 3 Ukrainians. But surely he should, because of the money that we're sending over there. But obviously, he's probably is compromised, isn't he?
Well, I think so, because there's now a fourth
It's
Ukrainian.
absolutely incredible.
Yeah, there's now a fourth Ukrainian that has been arrested, of
Sorry.
course. There's now a fourth Ukrainian that has been arrested. And of course, we've got a real problem, and it is a massive problem, in that we have to know, how did those gentlemen know where Keir Starmer lived? How did they know where his two properties were? How did they know that was his car? Um, Literally, and the other thing is we have spineless people, because you can certainly, under parliamentary privilege, even there might be, you're not allowed to talk about it in the House of Commons. Why not? You can come out in the House of Commons and you can turn around and say, somebody can ask the question, did you know these gentlemen? That doesn't prejudice the case whatsoever. If you come out and say, did you know them? Yes or no. Simple as that. And of course, that doesn't prejudice the case at all. Now, Starmer won't talk about this, but he needs to explain this.
100% he does, and the only reason that he wouldn't explain it is probably the same about Lord Ali, and the non-homosexual relationship that they claim not to have, even though he's been living in the penthouse in his penthouse suite. And how do you think then, if the media, the mainstream media, refuse to report on any of these, and we as the people in the UK, obviously, you have been here, so you got arrested for malinformation, and that's giving out the right information, but it's
Yes.
detrimental. It could be bad for the people to hear. So this, you've been at the butt end of it. Let's just say, of giving out the truth. So how are we, whilst we're here, going to be able to force people to stand up in Parliament and use their parliamentary privilege, or strong arm the government? Because this could, change the whole war, the whole Ukraine war, and the whole of the UK. It might be, we might topple the government, and it might turn out better or worse, who knows? But, also, if he is compromised, with Ukraine, that's going to be better for the ceasefire deals, let's to say.
Yeah, well, while we're talking about the ceasefire deal, you're right, it does compromise the whole thing, because if he is compromised, then that damages NATO. Suddenly we'll have to withdraw. We can't be seen to be giving money to Ukraine if he was having relations with the Ukrainian male models. That would just be a no-no. And even if he was removed as Prime Minister, it would still be a no-no, and that would damage NATO hugely, this coalition of the clueless, as I call it, that want to get involved. But they won't get involved without America helping them. Sanctions packages don't work. They've had 17 lots of sanctions. Absolutely none of them work. They're still thinking that a 17th and 18th round of sanctions will do some good. The Russians' economy is booming. It's not in the toilet at all. They are 12 miles away from Sumy. They are gaining more and more ground with every passing shall we say, day. They're losing. Ukraine are losing around about 1,000, anywhere between 1,000 and 1,400 men a day. This attack that everybody is saying was a brilliant attack on. Yes, it was a bloody nose for Russia, but you have to remember that 7 of those aircraft that they hit were being used for spares, so they weren't even active. And the stupidity of this is, just for instance, now put yourself in Israel's position if Iran did this. So if Iran walked into or flew drones into 3 or 4 of Israel's airports and had a go at their tactical strategic nuclear bombers and blew them up, what would be the first thing that you would think? They're getting rid of our strategic bombers so that they can launch their nuclear missiles themselves. This is why they're trying to knock ours out. We better launch while we can. This is how dangerous these idiots are.
Yeah, exactly that. And you've shown me a few days ago. It was before the mainstream media put it out. Anyway, of the
Yeah, absolutely.
actual proposals of this, and I don't think any of my people here, or people watching on the replay, have actually. No, we've all heard that we're going to go to war because
Yeah.
we,
Yeah,
doing
I
what they're
mean,
doing. But like
yeah, the problem that we have, Danny, is that this was a proposal from the Russians. Now, they had the Kellogg plan that the Americans put forward. Now, the Americans were the instigators of this war. Now they're trying to pretend to be the moderators. But here's the problem that we have. The Kellogg plan was more or less, how can I put it? Russia go back the other side of the border. They pay for all the damage they've done and they say sorry. That was never going to happen in a million years. We've had 4 ceasefires where we've had literally those ceasefires and the neo-Nazi lunatics that are basically walking around in Ukraine and running Ukraine. Zelensky's just the puppet master that they put up front there. They would just go into the oblasts again, the Russian-speaking oblasts, and start slaughtering those people. So the Russians have laid out this full document. We managed to get our hands on it a couple of days beforehand through a friend of ours who was very close to the negotiating team, and on the grounds that we only gave it to certain people, we gave it to you. And then, of course, we turned around and said that, that this was the thing. They want denazification. They want the 9 oblasts that are mainly Russian speaking, which will include Odessa as well, so that Ukraine can't have a sea coast. And of course, the nonsense that is coming out and the rhetoric is coming out from the West. You are losing this war. It's already lost, but you just haven't understood that you've lost it yet. And of course, the problem is, the major problem that we have with this is that they're just going to keep going and getting more and more Ukrainians killed. This war is lost. You haven't got any cards, as Donald Trump would say. Not even the Americans have got any cards to play here. Sign the deal, or you will just lose more and more land as you go. Hello, Danny. I can't hear you very well.
will start being stronger because of his chemistry. You can't hear me?
I can now.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Danny.
Hear me for some reason. You can hear me. Everyone else can hear me as well. So that's what's going on. We need to have an end to this, and if that would be an end, and I've looked at it, it's absolutely a great. It's a great way. It's a great resolution of it.
Yeah.
So why are they not signing it?
They won't sign it because they don't want to admit that they're going to lose this war. They don't want the Russians to get away with what is looking like a win. The Americans are trying to walk away by negotiating basically a draw here. The same thing they did in Vietnam, the same thing they did in Korea. Everything was fine when we left. We're off and leave the Europeans holding the ball. But the Europeans have then got to pick up the slack. So you're looking at 73,000.
Yeah.
Of the literally the English troops. You'd be looking at about another 50,000 German, about another 80,000 French. Are you going to go in there? Because Ukraine have lost 1.7 million, and this is something that never gets talked about. And you know that we have great sources on both sides for the actual dead that are really happening out there. And the Red Cross have actually turned around from Ukrainian people. This isn't Russia putting out this. Ukrainian people contacting the Red Cross, asking where 400,000 of their fathers and their sons have disappeared to. And the Ukrainians, when they were reporting, instead of reporting the people as dead, the commanders were reporting them as missing, because then for 3 months they can claim their wages, because the wages go to the commanders. So they were actually claiming wages off of these people.
It's absolutely crazy what's going on, and what's going to be going on into the future. Now, if Russia and you think Russia and China, if this carries on, would Russia then have a deal with China? Do you think, of saying, right, you've got your thing coming on in 2027, you help us now, we'll help you then? You think that's a possibility?
It's already well in there because, of course, Russia have always had China's in the very far north. China have always had that corridor that the Russians have looked after because they've had a bit of trouble with the people with the sort of the community that live up there. So Russia have always taken care of that for China. And the other thing that you have here, because of the BRICS and everything else. If you start to make war on China, you're making war on Russia, and China have already said, and North Korea, you have to take part as well of this, because they've already said that if NATO troops go into Ukraine, then China will take the lid off of how much they can sell to the Russians. The North Koreans will commit their troops to go into Ukraine fighting on Russia's side. Now, Keir Starmer has made this wonderful show of getting 100,000 drones ready to go and fight and fly these around Ukraine and kill lots of Russian troops and everything else. But what you have to remember is the Chinese can produce 7 million of these drones a year. So, 100,000 against 7 million Chinese drones. And they're absolute, and Louise is quite right in your chat. China is wanting to take Taiwan because it sees Taiwan as in its sphere of influence, and of course as part of China. Now the Americans, who only have 18 troops on there, 18 troops on Taiwan, are committing another 500 troops there. And Korean troops have been, as they say, in Ukraine. They went in originally as a learning force to just rotate their people in and out to get them some idea of combat. But we'd be going into a combat situation, Danny, where we would get absolutely annihilated. We don't know the topography. We do not know the language, which is very, very important if you are lost in that area. We have never fought a drone war. We have no idea how bad that is. This is like mobile artillery that can come and seek you out with a camera. This is totally different. We have never fought a drone war. We would get absolutely annihilated while we're learning. And of course, not only that, as I say, we've not fought in a trench warfare for a long time. Some of the stuff that I get sent by people from the front line on both sides is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I remember when we did the streams for you. You got very your your networks and your sources. They're on point, and some of the things that you was putting out. It was absolutely it was absolutely terrible, and Zelensky would be seeing that, and he kept putting the people forward. Same way as what Starmer's now doing. You're saying that we couldn't win this war if they start using the drones, and we haven't been in the wars and everything like that. So it for me it's crazy why we're not either just keeping out of all these foreign conflicts, because we will get found out. And my fear is this: if Russia then just say okay, cool, we're just gonna have a little we're gonna test the waters to see how prepared you really are, then you're saying that globally, and we can't do it. We've got 80,000 people in the armed forces, and if they find out in real time how many other crazy people from the Middle East, from China, from North Korea, any one of these people would be like, what, the UK is probably open for an invasion, a proper full-on military invasion.
Yeah, luckily Russia aren't invested,
because we can't be with Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. Russia wouldn't be interested in that. Russia just want their sphere of influence. They want, you see, remember that in 1990, we made a pact signed by Secretary James Baker, signed by Edward Shevardnadze and Mikhail Gorbachev, that if United Germany were allowed to be part of NATO, they would not infringe 1 inch further east. Now, that is a legal binding document. We've all seen the document. And the problem that we have is that ever since then, we've had 18 of these countries join NATO. And Louise is absolutely right. Zelensky is a weapon NATO puppet. This is a guy that used to play the piano with his penis and do various, shall we say, sketches on TV and stuff like that. This is a guy that put in, you know, this guy is a joke, and of course he's playing a role. The people who are really in charge of this, the West and America, tell him what to do. They were kicking off the other day because they wanted to see the Russian proposal that you now have. I was tempted to send it to him, but the reason they wanted it is because they wanted it. They didn't want to go into that. They wanted to take that proposal and they wanted to give it to the Americans and they wanted to give it to the British and the French, and then be told what they had to say when they went in. And just as an aside, here's a thing for you, Danny. When they went into the meeting, once again, the Ukrainians were wearing military uniforms going into this meeting. Now, you just look like a military bunch of lunatics running around when you do that. And the second thing as well is one of the guys actually had on his arm patches a pair of the old grenades that the Germans used to use. And that was the symbol for the 38th Waffen SS Derwanger Brigade, which used to be an SS division made. And of course, wearing that in front of the Russians, you know how the Russians feel about Nazis. They lost 27 million men defeating them in the last war. So that was, again, you know, a really, really stupid thing to do. And they were never going there to do the peace negotiation the second time. It was to hand over their list of demands of each other. And of course, they're as wide as the Grand Canyon. There's going to be no meeting in the middle at all. There will be, no matter what Trump says or anything else, there will be no peace in Ukraine.
No, not even with. I've got Louise. She's on this one at the moment, and she says that Lindsey Graham, our friend Lindsey Graham, is visiting Zelensky again. What's that? Is that just more of the same, or do you think there could be something? An escalation, let's just say.
Lindsey Graham, Danny, is a hilarious story. So let's get this absolutely straight here. Lindsey Graham is one of these people who is a war hawk. He's actually done an interview with Zelensky where he's actually hugging him side by side and going, "We can't wait to have your minerals." And the other thing that is really great about this as well is he was there before saying, "Best money we've ever spent, we're killing Russians," because he doesn't see the difference between Ukrainians and Russians. As far as he's concerned, they're all Russians because he is that much of an idiot. And while he was there, he stayed in a hotel that was £400,000. Basically paid 400. They paid £400,000. Now, of course, he's explained that as, "Oh, that's there for any dignitaries. It's there, but that's the payment for the month." Well, you're still staying in a 12 grand hotel, and they also had another one booked at the Hilton in Kiev, which is another £400,000. So basically, they're staying in a 12 grand a night hotel, telling the Russians how great they are, signing away all their minerals, which then puts Ukraine in literally economic hock for the rest of their lives. And of course, in the meantime, they're urging their people to go and get killed on the front line.
It's crazy. It's crazy how these people they feel they can just get away with what they're doing. You know, there has to be a way of shutting them down, and sadly, you know, you can only do as much as you can. You know, I can say on all of it, and I'd say to everyone now, so his Patreon is underneath, and the website is warrenthornton.com. To go there if you're interested in a multiple of things that are going on, because Warren's given me, he gave me these papers, the ceasefire agreement from Russia way before anyone else. He broke the story that Canada was giving a standing ovation to a war veteran of Ukraine that turned out to be a proper Nazi. You know, and loads of stuff, all the deaths, the true death count, what's going on. So get over to warrenthornton.com and be part of this, because this is why I like having it on, because there's no one else out there who has such good sources. And that's what it's about. You know, when you go and you break the news and I see it come up on the Telegram, I know it's there. I know it's real. You know, I don't have to go and fact check it. I can just put it straight out, which is always good. Now, Warren, the people here, they love to know about everything, and they're all saying about Trump. I've had about 4 things here saying, "What do you think about Trump?" So,
Yes, thank you very much for your kind, shall we say, words there.
Let me see if I can get this out on the.
This is a crazy thing, isn't it? That has just broke in the last day or two. Let's say this about Trump. Let's say this about everybody who's on the Epstein list. The Trump fans will turn around and say they're playing 5D chess and having a fake row so that they can actually put the Epstein list out there, which is, to be honest, is a bit of copium. The other thing, what we've got is Elon Musk falling out and turning around and saying the reason the reason the Epstein files are not out there is because Donald J. Trump is on them. Well, he is on the flight logs as well. He is on the flight logs. So, but it is incumbent. Let's have the entire Epstein list out there, because here's the thing, Danny. We had that fake launch, didn't we, by Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. We had that fake launch where everybody came out with a folder, almost like Chamberlain's Peace in Our Time. And it was full of nonsense flight logs that everybody had seen already. And then, of course, we've got to have it redacted, and it's going to be a couple more weeks and a couple more weeks. And then finally it's not coming out. And then we have Dan Bongino and Kash Patel coming out and going, Epstein really killed himself. We've seen the government files, honestly, which nobody believes for a second. And now we have this coming out. I tell you what you do. You put the entire Epstein list out there, and then everybody who's on it can come out and explain what they saw, what they were doing on it, whether they went on the plane, who they saw, whether or not they had anything to do with it. They can come out and say, I was there, but I didn't see anything or whatever. We've actually spoken to a couple of Epstein's victims, and they've named them, and I'm quite happy to name them if you're quite happy to have them on the show. One of the victims that we spoke to said that literally that these various people, Rudy Giuliani was at the parties, but never, ever took part in the after parties. She said she absolutely saw Bernie Sanders being forced to do something fairly horrific. So Bernie Sanders is definitely on that list, and definitely she says she saw him doing various things. And at one point, she also saw Madonna attend one of these after parties. Wow. So that's three people that she named. So if she can name them, why cannot Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and everybody else? And if Trump and Musk have had this fallout, then let Trump come out and just turn around and go, yeah, I was on the flight. But if you put the entire Epstein list out there and then let the people defend themselves from there, if you keep it hidden away, you just cause more and more people to go, there's something not right here.
Exactly. And I remember, we had it a couple of years ago. We had this conversation about exactly the same thing. Pull it out there, and then you have to explain yourself of why you was there. Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, and I will hold myself to this standard as well, if there's something like that and you was with the person, or you kept going to their house or their islands or whatever, then you should have to say why you was there, because it's your foresight, isn't it? If you don't know what the person is when everyone else kind of knew what the person was, then why should you be running the country? What foresight have you got for running the country? I'm with you on that. Put it out there. Also, what was the other thing that hasn't come out yet? The JFK files. I've not seen anything on the JFK files. These people are lying to the people, saying, vote me in, and this is what I'm going to do. But really what they're saying is, vote me in and I'll hide the evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for instance, one of the people who comes out with a lot of nonsense is the show host Jimmy Kimmel. Very simply, Jimmy Kimmel, great friends, opened a restaurant with a chef who was the chef on Epstein Island for 8 months. And he never told Jimmy Kimmel anything whatsoever. Jimmy Kimmel knows nothing. But he opened a restaurant with this guy. And of course, over a beer, he never ever told anybody anything that happened in Epstein Island while he was the chef there for 8 months. Of course they didn't, Jimmy. These people, Bill Gates, Clinton, you're looking at Melinda Gates divorcing Bill Gates because he went to Epstein Island. And of course, that's not come out. And of course, Clinton was on there at least 30 odd times, on the Lolita Express. and various other parties in New York and everything else. These people can come out and tell us what they were doing, surely. And of course, the Jeffrey Epstein thing. They're going to release a video of absolutely nothing. So there's big, oh, he did kill himself, honestly. So they removed his cellmate who was in there. They haven't got the actual video of him topping himself or his death or anything else. What they've got is people coming in and out of, they've got 12 hours of tape of people going in, of officers going in and out of his cell, and Epstein coming in and out of his cell. They removed his cellmate. The cameras were turned off for that vital time when he was killed. All the guards were asleep. And of course, nobody saw a damn thing. Now, it's very, very easy to crawl, to basically, how can we put it, drug his food, he falls fast asleep, somebody crawls through the air vent, and then takes care of it and crawls back through the air vent. Now, I'm not being funny, but how did Epstein manage to break a bone in his neck when he was sitting up? This smacks of Dr. David Kelly and the weapons of mass destruction.
Of course, we all, you know, that we all know what happened there. And as soon as it happened with Epstein, it was no, he can never have done it. And like you said, how could he break his neck sitting down? But whilst we're on about nonsense, and we are going to wrap this up soon, but I do want to know your view on it. So whilst we're on about nonsense, we had a few weeks ago, it was now, with Project Veritas, James O'Keefe putting out the undercover footage that Prince Andrew was noncing people because of that. I think it was his, what was it? His top security officer or someone like that was caught saying this to a journalist. Have you heard about that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, the most damning one of all, of course, is Johnny Bryan, isn't it? Because, of course, he was the guy who was, if you remember, he was the guy sucking the toe of Sarah Ferguson when it finished. Prince Andrew's marriage was to Sarah Ferguson. And, of course, he's on file as saying to James O'Keefe, or saying to that woman who literally, the honey trap reporter, saying, yes, we knew he was at it. We knew he was doing these things. He lied to me and all the rest of it. So he's there actually saying that, yes, Prince Andrew was doing this. We knew he was doing it. And when we found out, we were all disgusted because he was lying to us. But he was definitely getting hold of kids. And, of course, Johnny Bryant would know because he was actually going to Prince Andrew's house all the time. As he said in when he was in the honey trap talking to the woman, I knew Beatrice and Eugenie really, really well. You know, it is one of those. He said, I practically raised those kids. So he was around the Andrew household all the time. So he knew. And Andrew's just lying through his teeth. And he is somebody that should have to go to court. Because, of course, the young Gouffre never really recovered from that. And, of course, she is now passed away, God bless her. And these people, this is the thing people don't understand about this, is when this happens to a young girl or a young lady, they're in prison for life. They never truly get over anything like this. It's really, really important that justice is seen to be done when it comes to this.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you on that one. Justice needs to be done, especially because he's a royal. But it needs to be done for all the victims that are there. But sadly, we start as we end. You know, we know the truth, we know what's going on, but the globalists and all the World Economic Forum puppets and everyone else who's behind what's going on now, they just won't allow us to expose them personally. So, how are we going to win this?
Yeah, absolutely. It is, and the globalists are lining it up. I mean, we've got the Iran thing coming up. I'll give you a heads up, Danny, that most people don't have. We intercepted, or rather, we were sent a document that shows that America actually want to bomb Iran, but they don't want to be doing it themselves. So rather, Israel take the blame for it. So they're arranging it so that Israel will carry out the strike if Iran don't give up their entire nuclear facility. And it's not that they're going to make a bomb. They don't want Iran having nuclear power stations or anything else. Israel want it absolutely smashed up. At the moment, we've got ISIS who have now ISIS and jihadists who are going into the military. So the US have said yes to jihadists, ex-ISIS, going into the Syrian army. So that's another thing you should be looking out for. So there's two things to look out for in the coming weeks.
Definitely, because America, they the leader, I can't remember his name, is Jalabi or whatever, the Syrian leader, they kind of wiped off his 60 million. Yeah, Al-Jani, they wiped off his 60 million pound bounty, and then he was able to go into the White House. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll be very happy that the Al Nusra Front, ISIS, Al Qaeda, everyone goes into the Syrian army. Absolutely crazy. But thank you for your time tonight, Warren. I'm going to look into that as well. What you've given us, anything you have, in the next few days, next few weeks, like always, share it to me and I can share it out. Or you're on your X. But where can people find you apart from warrenthornton.com?
You can normally find me on X. You can also find me on Telegram, The Real Truth. And you can also find me on Patreon. If you want to come across there and you like a 2-hour news show and you like a morning subscriber show where you get a chance to have your say, then it would be absolutely great to see you. But just look out for us on X. Give us a follow on X along with Danny. Can I say a very great thank you for you making me so welcome as always, Danny. It's always an absolute pleasure to talk to you and the people that follow you, because they're actually wide awake and searching for the truth. And I think as long as we all do that and we keep each other company and we keep getting the truth out there, including your followers, then I think we this human race of ours maybe stands a chance of finishing first instead of last.
We can only hope. Thank you for that. And everyone else, I will see you the next time. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.